Dear students, today we'll be discussing on the tissues. Tissues. In the last class, we have been discussing with simple permanent tissues. Under that, there are three types: parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Here we call it as parenchyma, collenchyma, or sclerenchyma. And today we will take collenchyma. Kola is a Greek word. It comes this collenchyma. It comes from a Greek word. Kola in Greek, glue. Glue means what? Gum or resin. And then that enchyma means an infusion. Infusion. So collenchyma is a Greek word. It's a living tissue. Why we call it as living tissue? Because it has nucleus and it is found beneath the epidermis. You know, epidermis is the outermost protective layer. Just below that epidermis, immediately you will find this tissue or this group of cells. And these cells are elongated, very lengthy, elongated. And also they are unevenly having thickened walls. Their cell walls are thick, but they are unevenly thickened. And what is the shape of these cells? They are rectangular in shape, sometimes rectangularly oblique. Oblique means slantingly. They look slanting, or even they have tapering ends. What do you mean by tapering ends? Narrow. Tapering means narrowing, narrow ends. And also they consist of persistent protoplast. Protoplast is nothing but that, I said no, living tissue. Why it is called living tissue? Because protoplasm is there. Protoplasm is the physical basis of life. Protoplasm means nothing but the cytoplasm and its nucleus. Both together they are called protoplasm. So they have a persistent, continuously they'll be having the protoplasm. And they possess thick primary non-lignified walls. Their cell walls doesn't contain lignin, but they are very thick. And what is the function of these collenchyma? Their function is mechanical support. It provides mechanical support for the growing organs, growing parts of the plant. Even sometimes if you see the growing parts of the plant, they are elastic in nature, elasticity. So they provide mechanical support. And also here in collenchyma, you find three types. Of course, you don't study in 9th standard. When you come to 11th standard, you'll be studying them in detail. There are three types of collenchyma. They are called as angular collenchyma, lacunar collenchyma, and lamellar collenchyma. Lamellar collenchyma. Okay, we move on to the next type of tissue called sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma. Now it comes from a Greek word sclerus. Sclerus is a Greek word, hard, very hard. And enchyma, you know that, an infusion. So it's very hard. Sclerenchyma means they are very hard type of tissues. They contain thick-walled cells, and these thick-walled cells, they contain lignin. That's why we call it as lignified. And these sclerenchyma cells are dead. Why they are dead? Why we call them as dead cells? Because they don't have protoplasm. They don't have nucleus. At maturity, they will not have that persistent protoplasm. Sclerenchyma cells, they are grouped into fibers and sclerids. Fibers. What are fibers? They are elongated sclerenchymatous cells. They are very long, elongated, and their ends are very pointed. Their ends are pointed. You know that the longest plant cell is fiber. Fibers are the longest plant cells. Do you know that? You can know that now. And longest fibers, they occur in Bomeria. It's otherwise called rami fiber. You know the length of that fiber, it is 55 centimeter long. That is why it is the longest fiber. And fibers are the longest plant cells. Plant cellsல எது longest பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்த fibers தான், they are the longest cells. Okay. And they have very pointed ends. So that is, in other words, both the ends are tapering. very pointed. And their walls are containing lignin. That is why we say lignified, lignified, lignified. And fibers are abundantly found in many plants. So these fibers, what is fiber? Fiber is a type of sclerenchyma. It is found abundantly in many plants. The average length of fibers is 1 to 3 millimeter. 3 millimeter. However, in plants like Linum usitatissimum, for example, that is flax, and Cannabis sativa, hemp, and Corchorus capsularis, that is jute, these fibers are extensively longer. They range from 20 millimeter to 550 millimeter. In that, I told you that Bo Maria, that is otherwise called rami fiber, it is the longest fiber, which is 55 centimeter in length. And the second type of sclerenchyma is called sclerids. They are widely distributed in plant body. Very much they are distributed. And they are broad. They sometimes occur single, or they can occur in groups. Sclerids are isodiametric. Whenever you come across that word, iso means similar in all sides. And they also contain lignified walls. Their cell wall is very thick due to the presence of lignin. So that's why we call them as lignified walls. And pits are prominent, and they are seen along the thin walls. Pits are found in these sclerids. Lumen is filled with wall materials. The lumen is filled with wall materials like lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose, suberin. These are all materials which fill that lumen. So lumen is filled with wall materials. Listen, there are different types of sclerids. They are called as brachysclerids, otherwise called stone cells. Then macrosclerids, these are all rod-shaped cells. Then osteosclerids, otherwise they are called as bone cells. Astrosclerids, otherwise they are called as star cells. And trichosclerids, otherwise they are called as air-like sclerids. So these are different types of sclerids. What is the function of this sclerenchyma? What is the function of these sclerids and fibers? They are mechanical in function. They give that rigidity, that stiffness to the cells. So the plant can stand firm. The stem, the root, they can stand firm. Even, of course, if there is an hurricane or a very severe cyclonic storm, there are some plants and trees, they are uprooted. But in other sense, these sclerenchyma, they give that stiffness or rigidity, mechanical support for the roots, stem, and the shoot system. Then we move on to the complex tissues. Complex tissues. Why they are called as complex tissues? Because they are made up of more than one type of cells. And these cells, they work together as a unit. We studied about simple tissues. That is what we were studying, isn't it? Simple tissues. They have single type of cells. What are simple tissue? They have single type of cells. That is, in other words, they are composed of one type of cells only. And under that, we studied parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Then what is complex tissue? Complex tissues are nothing but they have several types of cells, but all of them function together as a single unit. But all of them, even though they are several types of cells, they form the complex tissue, they function together as a single unit. What are they? You are very familiar with that. They are nothing but xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem. Listen, uh, of course, these complex tissue consists of parenchyma, sclerenchyma, uh, but collenchyma is not present in this complex tissue. However, collenchymatous cells are not present in such complex tissues, but they contain parenchyma and sclerenchyma. And what we are going to study here is very important: xylem and phloem. What is xylem? They carry water. Xylem conducts water from the root to the tip of the leaf. And phloem, it conducts what? It conducts food from the leaf to the underground parts. Okay, now we move on to the xylem. Xylem. What is the other name for xylem? The other name for xylem is hadrome. Hadrome. That is the other name for xylem. The other name for xylem is hadrome. Listen, the term xylem was introduced by a person called Nageli. Nageli. And it is also derived from the Greek word xylos. Xylos is the Greek word. What do you mean by xylos? Wood. The meaning for xylos is wood. That's all. Xylem means what? Wood. So xylem gives mechanical support to the plant body. And what is the xylem composed of? It is composed of xylem tracheids, xylem fibers, xylem vessels, and xylem parenchyma. Parenchyma. Okay, now let us take this xylem tracheids first. What are they? They are elongated, very long, lengthy, elongated, and tube-like dead cells. What do you mean by dead cells? They don't have protoplasm. And also they have a very hard, thick, and lignified cell walls. Their ends are tapering. What do you mean by tapering? They are narrowing. Sometimes they are blunt, or sometimes they are chisel-like, very sharp end, chisel-like. And they don't have protoplasm. That is why we call them as dead cells. They have a very large lumen without any content. That lumen, that central cavity, is without any content. What is their function? Their function is to conduct water and also to provide mechanical support to the plant, rigidity, stiffness to the plant. And these tracheids, they are the chief water conducting elements in gymnosperms and pteridophytes. These xylem tracheids are not seen in angiosperms. They are seen only in gymnosperms and pteridophytes. Okay. Then number 2 is xylem fiber. What is xylem fiber? Just now we studied, isn't it? Fiber, it's a type of sclerenchyma. So what is xylem fiber? Very simple. Sclerenchyma associated with xylem is called xylem fiber. That's all. What is xylem fiber? Sclerenchyma associated with xylem is known as xylem fiber. And these cells are also elongated. Fibers are very lengthy. Just now we studied 55 centimeter in length in Bomeria. Okay. And these cell walls are containing lignin. That is why they are very thick. And they are pointed at both the ends. Both the ends of the fibers are very pointed. What is the function? They provide mechanical support to the plant. Xylem fibers, they give that mechanical support so that these xylem are very firm, very rigid. Next one is called xylem vessels. What is the other name for xylem vessels? Trachea. The other name is called trachea. They are long, very long, cylindrical in shape, and they look like a tube-like structures. And their cell walls are very rigid because of lignin. And they also have a central cavity. That lumen is very wide. And these cells also dead because they don't have protoplasm. And they are arranged in a longitudinal series in which the partitioned walls are perforated. What do you mean by perforated? They have holes or pores. Pores or holes are found. So that is why they are called as perforated. And there are two types of plates: simple perforation plate and multiple perforation plate. In the simple perforation plate, there is only single pore, and in the multiple perforation plate, there are many pores. So how they are arranged? These xylem vessels are arranged one above the other, just like a long tube. So that is present inside the stem and root as a long tube. So through that only water goes. So the entire structure, it looks like a water pipe, because they are arranged one above the other in a longitudinal series, and they have a partitioned walls. That is, they have transverse walls, and those transverse walls, they have openings or pores. What is their main function? You know that transport of water, and also they provide mechanical strength because of that lignin present on the walls. And the fourth one, or fourth type of xylem, is called xylem parenchyma. And you know that. What do you mean by xylem parenchyma? Parenchyma associated with xylem is called xylem parenchyma. And these cells are living. Why? Because they have protoplasm. And their cell wall is very thin. What is the main function of the xylem parenchyma? They store starch. Starch is the reserve food material, and other fatty substances are stored in this xylem parenchyma. Then we will take phloem in the next slide. Okay, here we stop with this.